the Square D, the Jack the Ripper of GAA Analytics. I'm joined as ever by the professor himself, the irrepressible Mr. Stephen O'Mara. Stephen, how's she cutting this evening?
The finest. The sun is shining. I'm here dissecting football all night and all morning, and if we get this done in the next hour, on the road for down to Carlow for a league game, sure, living the dream, Connor.
Living the dream is right. You weren't in the Boar's Head this morning celebrating the Division 2 title with the Dubs, were you? Lifting the Division 2 title over the River Liffey.
No, suffice to say, no, I don't think they were there. And I thought actually James McCarthy's speech, I was curious to see how they'd go about it. I did exactly what I thought. It was, said without saying, yeah, Division 2, didn't want to be here, but we're here. We had to get in the top two to get back up. We actually have to go through the indignity of going up the Hogan stand steps for Division 2. Let's get in and out and down as quick as we can. And that's more or less what he did. Not in those words exactly.
Yeah, 100%. And listen, speaking of the River Liffey, a team who have once again drowned on the banks of the River Liffey is poor old Derry. Since all the the exaltation there of recent years, they have flattered to deceive in the big matches. I think against the top 5 teams, they've been pretty much smashed. Yesterday was another trimming. You're going to show us the expected scores here. It could have actually been worse again for Derry, as apocalyptic as it was.
Yeah, look, I'm gonna get up a chart here for you, if you can bear with me for a moment. And we're gonna see here that basically, even the 4-6 down at half time, Dublin had shot appallingly poorly. They had 2 1-1 goal chances that ended up over the bar. Kieran Kilkenny, who you'd bet your house on, had missed 2, albeit one off his left foot, but it was a 27-8 yarder under no pressure.
Yeah, so the thin blue line is what they should have scored. The dark one is what they actually scored, and the same for Derry. So Derry are down thereabouts. Dublin, there's quite a contrast we're looking at here.
Yeah, and we'll look at it in numerical terms in a minute. But just, I suppose, if you look at that image, the thin line is your expected score, taking in distance and pressure. What was the expectancy of each shot? Was it a 20% or an 80%? With goals, it could be a 290% for an open goal, because we're basing it off points. But we see that thin blue line. It's massively higher than the 10 or the tick, the actual Derry scoreline. And it's the actual score is level on 47, but even at that stage, you can see Dublin were well ahead and absolutely annihilate them from then on. But even at half time, you can see that Dublin should have been on top. And we'll see here, that's your final score, or on 69 minutes. At that stage, it's game chasing. So
they're all over by the show. Yeah.
You could have even cut it earlier, but look, Dublin, Derry are more or less bang on expected score. Dublin should have scored more. They missed an open goal. But that's 2.9 expected score. And it's only 2.9 because I don't deal in the second digit after the decimal. I don't do 2.98s. And
so statistically speaking, have you ever seen a miss? Has there been a 2.9 expected score goal miss in the past, or is Darren Newcombe an outlier?
It's an outlier, and I'm delighted, because otherwise, you'd have to give it a 3 expected score. So you have to get the odd one missed here to give a percentage less than 100%. But look, obviously, you win some, you lose some. But the point is that, and look, we look at the shot map in a second. But the point is, even at half time, look, Dublin have 48% shots, Derry have 47. This is intriguing because in the first half in Derry, it was, by my take, probably the highest phases of possession, 2 shots in a single half in the history of Gaelic football. And this one, actually, the first half would have been, if this was a Division 1 game, would have been the second lowest all year after, I think, the first half of Roscommon, Galway, if I'm not mistaken. That's off the top of my head. But it's fairly close. But the key is, Derry's expected score per shot is 49%. Dublin's is 83%. Derry have shot above expected score. Dublin have shot terribly below with 2 goal shots. 1-on-1s ended up over the bar. Kilkenny, who you'd bet your house on, has missed 2. Handy ones by his standards. Just a bad shooting. But you see here, this image really, this is Dublin shots. The reds are missed. The greens are scored. The dark circles around are goal shots. Like there's so many goal shots inside the box there that are overlapping. You
So
can't.
this looks like something from Lansdale Road from a rugby match. Like literally, if Joe Sheridan was around in against Louth in 2010, literally carrying the ball over the line, the Dubs are literally not far behind them on this graphic here.
Yeah, absolutely. My good friend Joe might have gone in and tried to score a few tries there, but that is it. I mean, that's and you look at if you want to sum up this game, these two images, that's Derry's shots. It's not a brutal shot map. It's okay. You'd say, yeah, there's no silly shots at them from play, which are the circles are inside the shooting zone, but there's not a huge amount of them. Obviously, it doesn't tell you what level of pressure the teams are under. But I mean, those you see that those go in, go out. Those two images ultimately show that Dublin, thoroughly dismantled them. And as I say, even in the first half, it was 6-4 to Derry at half time. Dublin really should have been on top. Quick proviso to that I didn't actually give an expected score on Derry's goal shot just before half time. Because I felt it was more or less blocked by the keeper. There was two men on the line. I didn't think it could have gone in. So that's just in case anyone's looking with an eagle eye on that. Maybe you're going to say...
This is the same. Like, Derry came to Croke Park last year for the semi-final against Galway. Started off for 20 minutes, similar to yesterday almost. Looked like, yeah, they're here. They're going to, implant a real tough, rugged system. And like last year against Galway, completely fell off the wagon. Galway hammered in goals against them last year the same way. They're drowning in Croke Park. They this Owen Lynch character in goal playing in the right half forward spot all day, never moved out of there. He literally played right half forward all day long. And he actually invited the Dubs to play the ball long. And when they did that, the Derry lads turned and ran like hell. And no wonder the shot map is all over the place. But that's not going to happen again. That won't happen in Dublin against the better teams this year.
Yeah, look, on the whole, I'm quite favourable to the goalkeepers playing as a 15th man. I mean, I was at that as a coach 20 years ago when people thought I was for the board. So on the whole, without looking explicitly at Derry, I'm a fan of it. Ethan Rafferty, Rory Lavelle played at that with Galway in 1819. And everyone points out the one goal you can see, but Pep Guardiola would say, well, the percentages are on playing that way. And it is important. If there's one key point for Derry here, they did force Dublin long on the majority of kickouts. And Dublin won 9 and lost 7. Like, I don't think anyone's ever done that to Dublin. So that is a factor when you talk about the keeper being out the field. That's a factor. And that was a factor that caused Dublin trouble in that first half. Probably the only thing caused Dublin trouble, really, was being forced long on kickouts, which the keeper playing at half forward, as you say, is a key factor. But yeah, quite possibly. I mean, Dublin always look for the. I don't think there's a huge change in this system to Jim Gavins. I just think the nuts and bolts were tighter on Jim Gavins. But broadly speaking, it's the same idea. And what hasn't changed, in my view, is Dublin's first option is a kick out ball that they can use their superior pace, athleticism, and in most cases talent to exploit teams. And yeah, in some ways, I think maybe they were forced to that, but forced, it's what they want to do anyway. And maybe that, maybe that has an input in the fact that there's 7 goal shots there from inside the box.
We're talking about goalkeepers now, right? I mean, you're talking about structure, right? We're talking about Ethan Rafferty, open Armagh, right? We've seen with Rory begging, okay? In Monaghan, loves a gallop out the field, right? But yesterday with Owen Lynch, he occupied exactly the same slot for the full match or for the duration. Talk us through, like you're basically right proclaiming like and espousing the benefits of a goalie going out the field, but surely to God he should not stand in the same position. Is there an air this bloody goalie should be moving around more?
Well, look, there's two. I wouldn't say there's a black and white. I mean, one of the things I'm actually looking at as a Gaelic football coach at the moment is if you're playing very structured play, like if it was a soccer team, they'd be in the same position all the time. Your right full would be in the same area all the time. Your holding midfielder will be in the same area all the time, except on counters and coming late into attack. So maybe there's an element of that to it. I mean, look, ultimately, Derry have gone from Division 4 to Division 1. I do think you alluded to a point. Like they've played top 5 teams 3 times now and been heavily beaten on all occasions. Galway in the league last year in the All-Ireland semi-final, and now Dublin in the league in Croke Park, So I love what Derry have done, and they won a difficult Ulster Championship. I mean, they beat the three to four Division 1 teams. They beat Tyrone, they beat Monaghan, they beat Donegal. But I think maybe there's kind of a cult status around Rory Gallagher. I don't say that offensively to him. It's just the kind of character he is. And he's got such results. He's one of the top handful of managers out there. Maybe that top. It's not beyond reason to argue that. But I think people have got a little bit excited. Like they came third in Division 2 last year. Beat Tyrone, brilliant. But Tyrone, the man sent off after 20 minutes. They were 5 points up. Beat Monaghan, who aren't the top 5 side and haven't been. Beat Donegal, who I felt got a bit spooked, went off their own game plan until they were 1-4 to 2 points down, at which stage we went back to it and overturned the rest of the game by 5 points. I love what Derry have done, very similar style to, my own club team that I manage. But I think people talking about them as, up with Kerry, Galway, Mayo, Dublin as all Ireland contenders. I think yesterday probably when the goalkeepers in the box are out around right half forward, as you say, I just don't know, is there any evidence that they're just there yet? And retrospectively speaking, Donegal were a top 5 then. Maybe Derry knocked them out of that, but at the moment, you wouldn't, as revisionism would go, you wouldn't say that they've beat the top 5 team, except for Tyrone, who had a man sent off.
Yeah, look, Ulster football, is in somewhat of a decline at the moment, I think. Donegal are obviously in disarray behind the scenes there today. Obviously, there's talk of a revolt against the county board. We'll see how that pans out. Armagh are not at the top table as yet, right? They gave Galway a good run in extra time. Tyrone are obviously coming back to the fodder now without Conor McKenna. This year, I don't see, unless there's a dramatic change in form, I don't see the All-Ireland champion coming out of Ulster this year, unless Tyrone pull a rabbit out of a hat. Is that a fair point?
Yeah, I think that. I wouldn't call it a rabbit out of a hat for Tyrone. I think they were written off quite easily in 21 and they're being written off again. I wouldn't write them off. But no, the trajectory is, I don't see Armagh. I think their defence has kind of been worked out, and where it was brilliant, a brilliant asset, it's not really anymore. Donegal, hard to see unless they get some of those key players back. I've spoken about the O'Donnells, Ethan O'Donnell, the Niall O'Donnell, Shane O'Donnell, Ethan O'Donnell, Aaron Doherty. Hard to see it. Monaghan, you never know. Monaghan have only been to one semi-final. Came close. So yeah, probably not unfair to say, but I would throw Tyrone in that mix as well.
Okay. Well, look, we're going to move on, right? There's going to be a championship preview, right, coming up. But look, for all the reasons that you've outlined on your shot map, statistically speaking, if we look the raw data from yesterday's Dublin game, Dublin are very much contenders this year. Okay. Well, let's go on to Connacht contenders, Galway and Mayo, who battled out one hell of a match yesterday, and both are very much in the shake-up for the All-Ireland this year. The winning and losing of this game, we're going to start with the expected score again, which is quite intriguing here.
Yeah, and I think it's important to point out here that, because I don't want to do kind of what the classic thing is here and show all the good Mayo and all the bad Galway, because ultimately we see an expected score here. I'm going to share this with you. On expected score, all things being equal, this game should have been a draw. It's Mayo 15, it's Galway 14.8. And there's an element of judgment to that. I haven't given Johnny Healy's goal chance a 1-on-1 because I don't really feel there was an angle to shoot unless it was right between the keeper's legs. So that could be a 15.5 for Galway based on my interpretation. So all things being equal, the game is basically a draw, and you see it there. That's your expected score. And again, it's nip and tuck all the way. As I say, Galway dominated the early phase. Mayo dominated the early phase. Galway dominated the middle section of the game, and Mayo came back to it. But again, it's lowish phase of possession of the shots, 59% and 56%. But key is expected score per shot, 64 and 65. So what's notable about this, I've done the averages 4 scores per 10 phases is the average in the Division 1 league this year. Certainly at the first 5 games, to redo it for the last 2. And that's what, for me, is notable, because Galway have an expected score per 10 of 4.3, Mayo 4.1. They both shot a little bit below that. Now, the key, I suppose, is people are going to be asking, well, Galway got 5 goal chances, and that's ultimately equated for in that. But it is important to point out there's 2 elements. Number one, reaping goals. His goalkeeping is dead solid, and we'll look at that. I'm not doing a full piece on it, but it'll be in the middle of other pieces. But of those 5 Galway goal chances, only 1 was a 50%er, and the others were below. And by my take, 2 of them were 3 of them were well below. Peter Cook's, Matthew Tierney's, and Johnny Heaney's. They were all, they weren't likely to go in. They were all, none of them were. Well, I think
on Johnny Heaney's one, right, was a seminal moment of the match, for quite a few reasons. One, the actual referee decision when he was brought down. No, statistically, you haven't included that, which is quite intriguing, because if you factor in that Johnny Heaney incident itself, Johnny was taken out of it, right? He was inside the 20, which at inter-county level, tripping a player, clear goal scoring opportunity is a penalty. Colin Reap, at the very least, should have found himself in the sin bin for 10 minutes, which would have triggered either Mayo to bring on another substitution or put an outfield player in goal. As it happened, he actually received a yellow card. They clipped the ball over the bar. Realistically speaking, they kind of got out of jail on that. So if you factor in that incident,
in real time, I thought he should have gone to jail for the challenge. I've actually paused it. I don't have this image here. If I was on a jury in a court of law, at the point Johnny Heaney kicks that ball, Reap's feet are on the ground. Now, did he lift the foot a little bit? I don't. Maybe he did. Maybe it was just a natural momentum. Heaney went through him. It shouldn't have been a black card and a penalty, because he didn't stop the chance. The ball was gone. Why? The ball was gone. He didn't tip it by him and miss an open goal. So I think a free was correct. I thought stonewall red card at the time. I think if I was on a VAR, I'd say no, not enough evidence to say that was a definite red card takeout, as they made contact, his feet are on the ground. So I think the free was fair. I could talk longer about the philosophy of refereeing there, but ultimately, in the court of law, I couldn't say as a jury member that he deliberately took him out, not from the still shot I took last night.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, we don't have that there. We could have another further debate on that, right? But we're going to clip on, okay? The Galway attack yesterday is highly intriguing from a stats point of view. You're going to bring us through that.
Yeah, well, I suppose the Galway play in general. And I'm going to talk you through this chart. It's quite numbery, but again, this comes back to, we discussed this last week, kickouts, right? Here's Galway's kickouts to the full back line and the half back line. They got off 10 to the full back line, scored 4 points. And they've gone long on 6, 1-2, lost 4, conceded 3 points. So in total, Galway have scored 4, conceded 3 off their kickouts. Now, what the next table shows is what statistically, actuarially of more value. What did they score and concede? What did they concede on the turnover? On Galway's short kickouts, they scored 4, but they actually conceded 4 on the turnover. So they actually made no profit off their short kicks. But again, the long is the key. And actually, that 3-0 loss is actually a 5-1 loss when you factor in the first turnover. So ultimately, on this chart, if you just look at the bottom here, the derivative is the difference between when Galway went short and when they went long. And you'll see here it was 0.67 points per short kick. So again, we discussed this last week, the value of Galway going short. And it's statistically evident here again. It has been in Galway in 18 and 19, certainly this year. I'm not so sure about the previous years. I haven't got the data. And again, we discussed this last week. The hands on ball for Galway on the short kick out was key. And they just, if we look, this is the story of the game, really, in a lot of ways, because Galway, that's Galway's kick out map. And you can see they were forced long on 6 and lost 4 of those. 1, 2, 3, 4. So, and there's one there they tried to half back and they got wrong. Whereas Galway gave up the kickouts. Now, what's intriguing on this is there value in Galway giving up those kickouts? You would say no. And well, I put out my tweet yesterday. I probably missed the nuance. We see here Mayo on short kickouts have scored 3 from 14, was their lowest percentage all year, I think. On the turnover, if you look at the half-back, 14 short, full-back line, 2 half-back line. They scored 3 and conceded 2. So ultimately, actually, you see Galway have given up those kickouts, but they've actually only lost, and that shot map shows that Galway basically gave them up. They slight pretense of pressing, but for the most part didn't until late on. There was actually statistical value. If I was on the laptop, I'd be saying, yes, keep giving them the kick out because they're not making profit on it. So that wasn't an issue until one we look at in the last.
So quite unusually, you had a team that literally are rampant off their own short kick out.
Yeah.
But yet concede the short kick out to the opposition, which obviously one can only surmise that Galway are so tough at the back. Obviously, we talked last week, right? If you have Sean Kelly, John Daly in your team, and they're coming at you, once that ball is turned over, God help you, they're backing themselves to turn over Mayo and then ransack them at the back end.
That's what you're saying. And based on Mayo's stats, you wouldn't have backed that. But based on Galway's stats, you nearly would have. So there was they obviously, now look, I don't know if the data's there. I suspect not. My data would have probably said, maybe give them the first 3 and see. But it would have been borderline. But then, yeah, you'd have been saying after 3, 4, yeah, there's no value for Mayo in this. So let's keep giving it to them. And that's a first, as I would say. So that's a, and after those first 5 games, Galway had the best defensive record.
So on that, right, before Galway went out yesterday, was this an on-field decision? Or would they have been told beforehand, lads, let them have the first 4 or 5? Like, are players looking at this? Like, I mean, you take the depth of talent in that Galway team yesterday, particularly in the forward line, right? I mean, you're talking about Tierney and Finnerty and you know, Shane Walsh is in there, you know, Peter Cook, you know, Comer came in. You're dealing with the creme de la creme. This is a golden generation of Galway footballers. Are they being told, lads, do not contest it, let them have the ball, and we'll shut them down?
They more or less gave them up in the first half, I'm going to say. They gave all those kickouts in the first half were to the D. They basically were, by the look of it. Now, there was a kind of a half press, but it wasn't, you know, they were all tapped to the D in the first half, more or less. So ultimately they are. What the plan B is, you know, is there somebody there calculating what they concede off short kickouts? When I was there, that's what I did. But I don't know. I can't say if it is or not. But ultimately, if I was there yesterday, I would have said up until the 65th minute, which we look at in the final piece, yeah, keep giving that kick out up because for what they're scoring, we're scoring as many on the turnover. So it's fine. Good decision. I'd be happy with it. The flip side is Galway, if I was Mayo, if I was on the Mayo stats team and I had the laptop, coming into the game, I'd have been saying force Galway long at all costs because they're conceding when they lose them and they're scoring when they get hands on ball. And if I was Galway, as I said last week, I'd be saying get hands on ball at all costs. And, you know, you said to me last week when I showed you Bernie Power, and a point I never made in that last week against Kerry was, you know, they only got 7 off short, but the ones who went long, there was absolutely no short option. So the 7 that could have gone short went short. That was the point. Now you pointed out at one stage, if you remember correctly, when like I'm counting here, there's 5 Kerry men and 6 Galway men, and I said, yeah, and it looks easy, and may, you know, for a top end keeper, it should be maybe easy. Bernie Power made it look easy, but there's a problem here, and I'm gonna get
Conor Gleeson, not so much.
I think he looks to me, and there's some good ones out there. Stephen Cluxton was one. He looks to me like a soccer keeper who's playing Gaelic football, and there's a lot of adaptation to that, which, you know, there's greater or lesser extent guys get it. But I mean, I actually did when we were knocked out in 19, and I went back doing a bit of reporting or a bit of analysis articles. I had this exact image on the Kerry Mayo League final that Mayo won. We see here this at inter-county football has to be bread and butter. There's 4 Galway across the back, and there's 3 Mayo across the back. And you've just got to be able to hit that short. If your stats are saying there's value in going short, and if there's not value in going short, you've got a problem in general. Now, Mayo, I won't say have any problems as things stand. They didn't get value, but it was one game. Over the league, they've got huge value.
So that's the left corner back, Sean Fitzgerald.
And gotta clip
does
that.
it? Yeah.
For me, if I'm Mayo and I'm looking at this, if I'm Galway looking at this saying, lads, we play Mayo in the championship, we've got to clip that. If I'm Mayo, I'm saying, let's chance our arm and try and get away with 3 in the full forward line again. And we're going to see forensically, there's 2 problems. Number one...
Just on that slide, sorry, Stephen, just on that slide, right? If you look at his position there, right, John McGrath is a right corner back position.
Yeah.
Right? Dylan McHugh, right, is right half back. Now, on that position there, you'll see activity there. Dylan McHugh is making a run towards the space over on that as to Conor Gleeson's right.
Yeah.
So whether he goes left or goes right, either way, like it's handy ball.
Well, again, the top keepers make it look handy. It's not that handy. His body position is nice there to clip it out to the left corner back. I would say that's straight up. You'd probably be looking at a left-footed clip, which any keeper should be coached to clip it left to the apex of the D, because it looks like you're cheating and then you're not. But for me, sorry, I'm after.
There's
rule number 1: never turn off the mobile phone.
There's herself ringing you to say she's peeling the sponge.
It's one of my footballers that will play tonight ringing, so it's bad news. Look, there's, as I say, the top keepers make this look easy. But I will say 2 things. Number 1, 4v3, you've got to go short. Secondly, I would say the worst thing here is by going long, there's no value, because even if you win it, Mayo have a spare player out the field. For me, any of those 3 could have been hit. At this level, have to be. Now, Mayo did this to Kerry in 2019. But Kerry came back in the championship, and they were a horse with different colour on that press, and they battered them in the Super 8s. But the problem here is, because Mayo know he's going long, they've cheated. They've left their men, and they're in space. They've left their men half a second early. So you've got 6v4 Mayo under that. Now, I've actually shown this one. Galway won it, but Mars snatched a peach out of the air, Jack O'Shea, Brian Fenton style. But any break there, and it was 80-20, 90-10 Mayo. So that's the forensic problem. But the issue is, as we go through the game, the 6 that were kicked long, 5 of them, there's a clip to the edge of the D. There's a clip to the top of the D. There's a clip to the edge of the D. There's a clip to the left of the D. There's a clip right in front of the D. And they all went long. And for me, they've lost 0.67 points on 6 kicks there. It's 2.5 up. It's a 3-point deficit they didn't have to have. And it's little details. Stephen Cluxton should have been winning All-Stars every year, because he was doing that all the time. Only the real analytical people spot the value. Other keepers take the easy option, bang it long, no blame attached if you don't win it. And I'm saying, like, Dublin won it All-Ireland in, was it 16, I think, where it was level late on, and they won 3 of those. They won 2 of those in a row, where Mayo had a 4v3 at the back, went long, Dublin won them. Dublin scored 3 points in 60 seconds. One of them hit Dermot Connolly's back on the way out, and there was a right corner back was free. Cluxton didn't get the All-Star. Cluxton was the All-Star every year.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the most famous one of all in 2013, which is probably the game of the century, which was Dublin Kerry in the semi-final, when Cluxton, as you remember, when the game was in the melting pot, went long, and Mick Darrell McCauley just got that vital flick ahead of Davy Moore in the middle of the pitch. McMahon went on his bike down the field, fired in the goal. That was the famous thing when Paddy Andrews was screaming at him to knock it over the bar. And McMenamin, it's classic Ken McMenamin, goes for the crossbar, measures it to perfection, goes in underneath, gives Paddy Andrews a wink. The rest is history. They ran another couple of goals, but again, Cookson going long. The interesting thing with goalies, as well as what's less talked about, is what size is their kicking tee. Some goalkeepers use a very, very small kicking tee. Oftentimes, if there's a clip or a guy standing on the D, they don't back themselves to get their foot underneath the bloody ball enough, right? Once a regulation kicking tee can be any size you want, which there's not a huge amount of science or thought, or from a spectator's point of view, put into exactly what size a tee it is. In professional golf, golfers know exactly how high to tee the ball in every single shot to give consistency.
Yeah,
a little bit different in football.
Yeah, you're a good golfer, so you're probably far more au fait with the ins and outs of that. My understanding, and it could be complete pub talk, but my understanding is Stephen Cluxton had a blacksmith redo a horseshoe, and that was his tee. Could be absolute nonsense, but that's what I've heard. And you never could see Stephen Cluxton's tee. It was so low to the ground. So look, there's all those dynamics. Ultimately, it's probably, I'm talking to the golfer here, it's probably like you and me going out and you having ropey clubs and me having the best clubs in the world. I'm still not going to beat you, but I would imagine you'd rather have your good clubs.
Yeah, no, 100%. Speaking of blacksmiths, I recently bought a dog off a blacksmith. The only problem was when I got him home, he made a bolt for the door. Which moved us on, if you haven't turned off. Speaking of blacksmiths, Aidan O'Shea yesterday did a lot of eye-catching, pretty brilliant stuff in the forwards. You have some analysis on his defending.
Yeah, well, look, I'm going to look at analysis on Mayo defending in general. And as well, Aidan O'Shea is sort of at the end of this point in this piece. But I got to look, and you look at different things. These are the two best defenses in the National League. Galway stand out on expected score, but there's that enigma. Every team shot below expected score against them in the league. And Mayo were just about to shoot above it until they missed one late on in the final yesterday. But these are statistically the two standout defenses of the league. And when I look here, and it's still the league, you're still not up against the best teams with all their forwards and the strategies and but this is, for me, I'm going to say now, this is the best coached defense in the country, Mayo. It's super. And I have a belief, which we're going to look here. I think Galway technically have significantly better players than Mayo, probably making no friends in either county saying what I'm going to say. I think Galway have 7 international standard footballers in their team. I don't know Mayo well enough to say yet, but they certainly don't have 7, but they've got savage athletes. But we're going to watch, and there's a key point in this, that Galway scored 5 points into a Mayo set defence yesterday. One was a completely unnecessary free. You look at 4 out of, I think, 16 or 17 phases into zonal defence. That's guess based on the amount of phases of the game. I'm going to say about 16, 17.
The unnecessary free, I'd imagine the first half, was Aidan O'Shea when he just tackled on the 45.
That's right. And we're going to this. You're a step ahead of me. The point comes onto this. And I'm gonna let me share this with you. So of the 4 they conceded, 5. One O'Shea found Walsh needlessly. Shane Walsh pulled a rabbit from a hat on one where they were well set. John Daly worked a piece of magic that we showed last week on 1, and 2 they just got broken down with whatever. But let's just have a look at this. The point is, Galway got most of their scores on quick transitions or semi-quick transitions, and both teams did actually. Neither side had much joy into the zone defense, which is interesting considering both of them were doing really well on it. Well, to some extent, Mayo especially. Watch this. Ultimately, when you're defending, you want to have man-on-man near where the ball is. You can have 15 behind the ball. You don't want the opposition to have extra players in the area where the ball is. If the opposition leave their sweeper at home, you could go what I call tag a man +1, which is where everyone has a man and you have a sweeper behind you. I call it the loaves and the fishes defending, because if it's done right, it's 10v11 or 11v12, but anytime they try to break a line, if it's well set up, you have a 2v1, you have the sweeper and the defender. This looks like a tag a man +1, but football has evolved. And we'll see. At this point, Shane Walsh, probably the best line-breaking footballer in Ireland, goes down the wing, plays a lovely coached ball with the vertical interchange where you can backdoor cut or loop and shield. They go on the loop, but watch already. Look, watch these Mayo men. They were tagging, but watch as the ball is given. They're back Dublin up. And we've gone from a nice, comfy tag a man +1 that look at all the green jerseys starting to come. And as Matthew Tierney comes in off the line, who's been the best player in the league probably to date, but was man-marked out of the game in the first half by Paddy Durkin. Look at all the green jerseys. And he's forced. Durkin, he was on him like a bad smell in that first half. It was a Lee Keegan, Kieran Kilkenny job in the first half till he went on to Comer in the second half. 3 men around him, difficult slip pass, and it's missed. Okay? Brilliant defending. Now watch this. Here we are again. This looks like a tag a man +1. This is planned and constructed by Galway and brilliantly defended by Mayo. Watch this. It looked white lines, tag a man +1. This is the most difficult situation to defend in Gaelic football. This is where Mayo got 2 goals on Tyrone. I think Tyrone have taken a few learnings from it. It's where they got their goal against Monaghan. I never mentioned that in the show. What did Tyrone Monaghan? It's kicked across. You've got your tag a man +1. You've now got the man coming up to the back at the perfect angle, perfectly timed. Now all of a sudden Galway should have an extra man. Watch what happens. These 2 Mayo boys, there's 3 things here. There's superb coaching, there's superb diligence, and there's superb intellectual capacity. And we're looking here. Dermot O'Connor sees what's happening. And as this Galway man comes forward, he sprints across. There's A, the coaching. This is the structure. There's B, O'Connor to spot what's going on, and C, there's the work ethic to get across. And all of a sudden, from what is a really nicely constructed Galway phase, down the channel, back out, +1 comes late at the angle to get a 3v2 on this side. O'Connor's across. He shifts the man across. It's tag a man +1 again. And you see the 2 Galway boys up there in the ovals, and they're what's called dead space because there is no value to the play as things stand. And if you see there, his name escapes me, and we're going to do a piece on the Galway number, or the Mayo number 11. Help me out if you can.
Jack Carney.
Jack Carney. This guy, I was going to do a piece on. I'm going to leave it later in the chat with you. This guy could be in the Kieran Kilkenny mold. Offensively, could be the key man for Mayo. But watch, even if Galway switch the ball back, the position is perfect that the Galway men aren't a threat, even if you turn the ball back. But they get back to tag a man +1. Galway go through the centre, and they nearly get swallowed up. And I suppose that's the point. What happens?
Yeah.
Go back out. Ain't no Shea Fells, Paul Conroy unnecessarily.
No, it was nearly a day of the 2 Jacks yesterday. Jack Coyne, I thought, at right cornerback, was pretty outstanding, and like you say, Jack Carney.
Yeah,
these are real footballers.
No, they are, and look, they are, and you know, there's a whole generation of Super Mayo footballers after retiring, and looks like their boots have been filled seamlessly. Now, I don't have enough. I'll say Galway. For me, we're going to move on to this here, and we're going to see this peach of a kick pass made by Sean Kelly. I don't know Mayo as well as Galway, and these Mayo boys are new, and I'm looking more at whole team analysis. I need to sit down for a few weeks and get a grip of the individuals here, maybe do some individual stats and whatnot. I will say, and I wouldn't stand over this till I know the Mayo team better. I do think there's more football ability in the Galway team. I think there's 7 international standard players in the Galway football team. The Galway football panel: Damien Comer, Ian Burke, who's injured at the moment, Shane Walsh, Matthew Tierney, who was taken out of the game yesterday, Paul Conroy, phenomenal football. I think Finnery's an excellent Division 1 forward. I wouldn't say international standard, personally. And I don't use the term international standard lightly. I'm saying if there was an international dynamic and there was 60, 70 Irish lads in the top 4 leagues in England, this is what I'm talking about. I think those guys I've mentioned, John Daly and Sean Kelly, for me, Aidan O'Shea, definitely. Mayo, now I have to look to see if there's more. There maybe there are, there maybe there aren't. But the point of this is when Galway got the chance to attack man on man or with a stretched Mayo defence, they carved them open. And you see here, and Sean Kelly's best attributes are his athleticism and his brain. And here he is with what you wouldn't say is necessarily a standout attribute. Look at this crossfield pass under pressure. Brilliant. Perfectly on the nose of the man against superb Mayo man markers who ultimately won the day in the last 7-8 minutes. They made 3 man marking turnovers on top class forwards. Even this hand pass isn't as easy as it looks. You know, Tyrone play a lot of those balls, get them in, and the hand pass spills because it's an inch perfect pass. And that's probably Conor McKenna being there when they won the All Ireland was probably key because he had that international standard caliber to play this pass under pressure consistently. Most guys don't. It's much harder than it looks. Makes the pass and they're in, and that's the 1-on-1 goal shot. Now, in terms of
5 goal chances yesterday, Galway, hadn't they?
Yeah,
and again, 5 goal chances.
5, and we're going to have a look.
Does that include Johnny Heaney?
Yeah, that includes Johnny Heaney. And I will say, and I was only speaking to someone this morning who told me Matthews that coached Stephen Cluxton in Dublin and is generally regarded as the guru of that era of Dublin goalkeeping. I only learned this morning when I was asking questions about this keeper that he played League of Ireland or, you know, we looked at Bernie Power last week. I said, if I die tomorrow, write it on my gravestone, don't go down too early. Look at this. The body's big, but the legs are low. Brilliant technical save. And on all 5, when you look at them, he stays big and he made a few cracking saves. That's just an aside. I don't have time to do a full piece on him. And even that one where he took out Johnny Heaney or collided with him, his position was brilliant. We're going to see it in a second. Point is, when Galway got a chance to play free, expansive football, that international, professional standard ability for me shone through. And this is the key. This is the real devil in the detail stuff. Here's Galway coming out of the back, right? And Mayo don't have a +1 at this point. They've got a man just off. But the key here is there's a Galway for free man in the red oval of Galway. And this is the real devil in the detail, technical coaching and know-how and analytics. What you want is to make sure, whether it's him or somebody else, that he stays back behind the ball. And we'll see here, Galway do a lot of moving and shaking, but we'll see here, what you don't want is for this Mayo man on the white arrow to get sucked to the ball, and the Galway man on the orange arrow slides through. But as Galway are moving and shaking, we'll see here again, and I think it's my man again, the centre forward. He's pointing, no, I'm going back here. Notable, Shane Walsh man marked. So despite the zonal element of this game, Tierney was man marked by Durkin in the first half. Shane Walsh was man marked throughout. So there's all the 2v1 rules out the window. Shane Walsh.
Yeah, I think that's Jack Coyne there, number 2.
There was a change there, I think, forced through injury, if I'm not mistaken. But the point on this is, Peter Cook now swings out. Somebody else swings in, but you see the Mayo boys pointing. They keep that spare Galway man the wrong side of the ball, or the wrong side of the goal the whole time. And what do we get? If teams defend like this, we get boring, dull, drab games because you end up in a set defense like this. And what the average Joe will say, oh, they're awful defensive. They're not awful defensive. They're defensively sound. Professional soccer players all understand this. James McLean, maybe not. But every other professional soccer player I've seen in the Premiership anyway, they understand this. And if they didn't, they wouldn't be professional soccer players. And that's why Trapattoni, an Italian defensive coach, wouldn't have McLean in his team. He didn't understand this. But this is just good. It looks simple, but good defensive. If you put out a Premiership standard brains in Gaelic football, this is how Gaelic football would be. Now, here's another example.
I was hoping we get through the show without mentioning Trapattoni, but there we go. We live in hope for next week.
How could you? I won't get into ELO rankings since he's left Ireland or before he came to Ireland. So let's park that.
A few things in this, right? You're going to go on to the Mayo work ethic.
Well, let me just finish this point first. Here's a similar scenario, right? Now, there's 4v4 here. Now, watch Aidan O'Shea is in the dotted. Now, Aidan O'Shea was midfield. I think the best thing Mayo have done is put Aidan O'Shea full forward for 2 reasons. Number one, He's an international standard footballer. I don't think he was ever a midfielder. I did an article on Sports Show in 2017. O'Shea was at midfield for 50 minutes and he was the primary breach on 5 scores. Don't have a guy like that who can't run after Killian McDade's and Matthew Tierney's. Don't have them at midfield where they're getting breached. Have them high up the field, like Messi, like Giroud. Let him up there. Don't make him come behind the ball. Let him do his magic up there. Because this is really costly in the middle third. People won't put these two together, but watch O'Shea. Go back with the 2v1 to the previous one. It should be apparent at this stage to O'Shea that they're not going to make this turnover. And the threat is John Daly out there in the red arrow. And he should be stepping back off, but he doesn't. Now, this doesn't look like much, but watch what we have now. Galway are now man and man. They're actually slightly better than man and man. O'Shea is pointing, but as we see the lines, there's no one to point to because if anyone goes to Daly on the ball, they're leaving another runner. What happens? Daly, just images don't do justice, takes out Dermot O'Connor, whose intellect we've seen already, but he just plays the angles long enough to force O'Connor to stay with the other Galway man briefly. Gets in man on man. Galway get a few man-on-man opportunities. What happens? They're pure class goal chances. There's the chance. And again, to give Reaper's dues, there's top class goalkeeping coaching and goalkeeping application because the keeper has to go out and do it. And he made a great quote, I won't butcher now, after the game about the foundations being right and maybe you're a bit lucky after that or something. I just did butcher it. But look at it, in fairness, look at him standing, perfect positioning. Only place that ball can go into the net is if it's put right between his legs, which is has about 2 inches either side to hit the legs. And lob him, yeah. If he was Poborski did that against Denmark. The point I'm making is that ball's going wide now. So whether he gets hit now or not, on the side, top class goalkeeping 5. So Conor Gleeson, credit where it's due, made one brilliant one as well. But the point I'm making is that's Galway. When they got the chance to operate. There weren't many chances of them. And the flip side is Aidan O'Shea, and I could have missed one or two, but he got fouled for 2 scoring frees. He laid 2 point shots on a plate as assists. One was put wide, but that's not his fault. He's a brilliant full forward. I feared they were going to start lobbing stupid ball into him, and it would backfire, but they're not. They're playing smart, intelligent ball in. He's a top class footballer on the ball, back to goal, twist, turn, draw 2 men, slip the ball or get his own shot. That's the place for him because you see, even high up the field, and O'Donoghue as well was guilty of similar on another one that led to a goal chance. Again, I often talk about the top 2 of Paul Cassidy and Derry. He's there to defend, not attack. He's number 15, or he was anyway. But yeah, the more O'Shea is left near goal to do his magic and not have to defend, the better. But even there, even though little details he still needs to tighten up on, because it might look like much up on the opposition D, but one thing leads to the other. You're playing Galway, Dublin, Kerry. Those balls can be in the back of the net 10 seconds later.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, at the other thing from Mayo this year is, right, Tommy Conroy came on yesterday. Looked outstanding. Really, really sharp. Great game intelligence. Ryan O'Donoghue's in there. We know he can do what he can do. And James Carr is back in the mix. So, any pub talk about Mayo not having the scoring forwards this year is absolute balderdash in the extreme. There you have some out-and-out assassins in that lineup. And they're at this stage of the game, this is a settled Mayo team, a settled strategy. The talk down there is there's great communication through Kevin McStay from all sorts of channels. Mayo are going to be a hard bet this year, and I don't care what anyone says. This is a really, really strong work ethic side.
I agree, and look, I think the coach is brilliant. The raw ability is there, maybe more athletic than Matthew Tierney, Ian Burke kind of raw ability, but it's there. It's more Con O'Callaghan. I'll say it's more Con O'Callaghan than Ryan McHugh, shall we say? But it's there. The coach, but I saw an advertisement came up on my laptop a few weeks ago, and it was Amazon Prime. It's the Arsenal documentary. I didn't know it existed until then, but what was noted was Mikel Arteta, the manager. He's come through the best football school on the planet, La Masia in Barcelona. Spent 10 years or whatever there. But now it's probably your kind of Hollywood soundbite, but I thought it was notable and I quoted this to my club team recently, for all his Cruyffism, the Johan Cruyff School of Football in Barcelona, the key soundbite anyway is, when you lose the ball, you fucking run. And I thought that was so telling. And Claude Makelele was sold for Real Madrid because he didn't understand how much sprinting he did backwards when the other team had the ball. It was like playing with 12 players. And when he left Real Madrid, they plummeted for 10 years. Went to Chelsea, they went that way. Mayo lose the ball. What do they do? To quote Mikel Arteta, they fucking run. Watch this. Turnover. Shane Walsh, middle third. Opposition on the back foot. This is Christmas for Galway. Who else do you want here? Where else do you want Shane Walsh getting the ball except right in front of goal? Hand pass given out. Look at Jordan Flynn here. I go back. There's Jordan Flynn trying to dispossess Sean Kelly. There's the hand pass out. What do most forwards do? Didn't dispossess Kelly. Right, boo-hoo. No. Look at him. He's back. There's 3 other lads back.
Just bring it up on screen there if you can.
When I do this, sorry. I'm after forgetting to put that up. Sorry.
Yeah, just the last slide.
Yeah, no, I just completely forgot to put it up on the screen.
Your descriptive analysis is actually so strong, we don't need a slide.
Oh, sure. Look, when you're
good, we know from.
What did I say?
Now you're talking.
Now we're talking. So there's turnover here. Sorry, I'm going back to the last piece.
Shane
turnover
Walsh.
Here. There's Sean Kelly. There's Jordan Flynn trying to make the turnover. Yeah. Ball comes out. Jordan Flynn is 6-7 yards off Shane Walsh. It's Christmas for Shane Walsh. Got to run the length of the field. Got one score like this in a similar position where the ball was played 30 yards down the line and Mayo were too far behind them. Man on man, only one thing going to happen. Look at Flynn. Look at the when I do individual stats, I mark this as a Makelele, where it wasn't your man beat you, but you've gone after him like a bat out of hell and you've turned him or you've made his situation less advantageous than it was. Flynn does it. 2 or 3 other boys are at it. What happens? Shane Walsh has turned. Now, they actually scored anyway, but that was just an extreme example of something that Mayo, and look, if I'm being honest, I'm not putting them on the screen. Galway were in the same situation 3 times, and I wouldn't have been marking any Makelele runs. And ultimately, within the context of expected score of the game, should have been a draw. If there was a point tipper of a point or two, notwithstanding the fact that Walsh recycled this ball, they scored anyway. Mayo have that about them, and they have it in spades. I think them and Dublin are the 2 standout and have been for the last 10 years. And I think if Mayo were going to win in All Ireland, that would be at the foundations of it.
Okay, so look, we've covered a lot of ground here today. I think, in summary, some of the talent on show there yesterday, particularly in the second match in Galway Mayo, was pretty outstanding. Some of the forward play, I think this precocious Galway forward line, if they click, they're going to be even stronger than last year. Mayo's an all-round unit, right, with the few forwards they've got back in. Right, this championship, the more it's shaping up, this is wide open, really.
Yeah, I think so. And look, we'll look at the teams individually before championship starts if we get a chance, or in and around anyway. I agree, and I think, look, Mayo. There's one element that we'll look at Mayo where that brilliant bunch defending. If you come up against the Premiership standard player, the Sean O'Shea's and the David Cliffords, where 4 lads come to the ball, the Conor McKenna's, these guys might have the skill set to suck in 4 players, slip them back the other way, and make the defense fall apart. They may. I'll do a forensic analysis of that on a preview of time before the game next week. But ultimately for me, Mayo are ticking all the boxes. Galway are now ticking most of the boxes. They've got to get the short kickouts off. But 2 things that killed them, absolutely killed them the last day. And again, you look at who's one of the big stats gurus online, really, really top analyst, Don't Foul. Name says it all. Galway gave away 6 free. Now, Kerry have been at this the whole league. Maybe Paddy Tally's telling them, go on out and enjoy. We'll do tactics when we get to the Munster Championship. Galway gave away 6 unnecessary frees. I'm going to say 4 absolutely unnecessary frees. And I'll just pick it out 2 here. And again, this goes back to that conundrum. Kevin Walsh had not amazing footballers, but defenders in his full back line. Kevin Walsh, or apologize, has footballers. Now, there's pros and cons, but like this ball comes in here, like there's a Galway man getting back as a +1. Just stand them up. Even try and squeeze him to the line. Don't push him in the back and get up a free taker, can kick a ball over 51, 52 yards. This one here, these look to me, and Dublin minor teams have had I haven't been watching the last 7 years, but when I was a teenager in my 20s, Dublin minor teams had an epidemic of 6 centre backs playing in the back 6. It was obvious the cornerbacks have never played there and haven't been coached how to play there. The nuts and bolts of the man mark, and not Sean Kelly, but the cornerbacks look to me like centre backs playing cornerback. Good footballers, out of position, being done an injustice probably. I don't know much about these guys, but we see here, this is basic. Across the imaginary line, what do we do? It's right in front of the referee. Don't pull him down. There's just no need. And again, that might seem smart. I'll get away with the ref's right there, but a cornerback is, a wily fox of a cornerback would know where the ref is. So that was one thing. 6 unnecessary frees, 4 absolutely unnecessary. But the key one, and we've only got 2-3 minutes left here. Galway think they've got it within a point on 64 minutes. It's hawk-eyed. It's back to 2 points. But there's a Galway sub and there's a Mayo sub. There's the guts of 60 seconds to press this kick out. 65 minutes, 2 points down. Now, I see what they're doing. You can see they're communicating. They've got a box of 6. Box of 6 just isn't enough. You're 2 points down with 5 minutes left. What's the bigger risk? That they'll go over the top of your full court press and get a goal, or does they get their hands on the ball? Hands on ball. They'll grind you down. They'll play the clock. You've got to get more than 6 bodies into the press. When you've got 60 seconds to prepare it, the scoreboard in front of you, they go with 6 bodies. You've got to, for me, this is a 14-man press. If you lose it and they get a goal, fine, but that's a 10% chance. You've got to make it. This is a 50% kick out at best. Box of 6. Now, look, the Mayo boys are smart. It's choreographed. They're running left. They're running right. But ultimately, what do? They get 4. They end up with 4 inside. Galway have 3 and 3. It's a 4v3. But hands on ball. They wind down the clock till Galway are chasing the ball. They get a handy point. 3 points up on 67, 68 minutes. At that stage, it's bar an unlikely goal, which Peter Cook had a crack at. It's nearly all over bar the shouting. So that's just for me. Late on game management. As a Galway supporter there, still a semi-Galway supporter, I'm tearing my hair out looking at that with 65 minutes gone.
Okay, well listen, we know you're going to be herring down to Carlow, and you have enough penalty points in your scrapbook already. So listen, well done, right? That was some fantastic analysis there tonight. Lots of food for thought. I know anyone who's tuned in will look at, I suppose, a lot of forensic detail. There's just massive food for thought, both in the pictorials and the analytics here, and as well as everything else, how you think about the game, having looked at all this. So listen, we'll see you again next week. Any parting words?
No, we certainly went over the plans that the guesstimated 40 minutes, but we're under the hour, so we'll call it a day. I'll get on the road and my club team will have a manager for the league match just about tonight.
That's the stuff. Well, listen, keep her lit. Good night, real bow lat.
Good stuff. Thanks,
Slán.